Hello, we're the huge movie fanatics here coming back to review a movie which is a story about a boy, a girl, and a universe. Basically Star Wars Episode 4, but had I had my way, this would have been the first one we would have reviewed, because this, when it came out, I was like 5 months old when this came out, and it was Star Wars. The title of this movie up until, well, forever really, for a long time, was Star Wars. And you know, the original films were like Star Wars, you know, the titles were Star Wars, and even though they were, you know, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, you know, it was different than it is now, where now we say Star Wars Episode whatever kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? So when this first came out, this was Star Wars, and I think it didn't even have The New Hope when it first came out, right?
It's first, he tried to do it, but their first release, it was in the '81 release, I think. He got to put a New Hope on there.
Okay, so Star Wars, basically just Star Wars. I mean, this is, if you're looking at it, and see, this is what's weird, is because you should, you know, this is the first one that ever came out, but we're talking about it as if it's the fourth movie, so this is kind of weird.
The whole franchise is kind of weird to talk about.
The whole franchise is really weird, and I don't know how to talk about it. But I'm going to talk about it like it is, which is it's 1977. It's the first Star Wars movie, and it's just like, holy shit, you know. Of course, you know, me being 5 months old, I didn't have much experience with movies, and I probably didn't even see it until it was on video cassette. But, you know, obviously I grew up with it, as did people my age, and well, people your age, and I just think it was a powerhouse. And what I think is so funny about Star Wars, I guess I might as well just say Episode 4, A New Hope, so you know what we're talking about, is that you know, Lucas is just like, you hear him talk and talk and talk about how nothing he wanted to do. You know, he couldn't compromise. If you watch the original one, like on that DVD that came out, where they actually do put out the original, I mean, even still, I mean, I think the original, I mean, it works fine. The thing that's important to note for a viewer is that when you go into a movie, you don't know what the filmmaker wanted to do. You only know what they put there. So a viewer has much more enjoyment out of something than the creator, who is like, God, you know, only 50% of what I wanted to do, or 40, is on the screen. I'm so, you know, here's Lucas is disappointed probably when Star Wars was released, and everyone thinks he's not even looking at, you know, all the great, because they did a lot of advances in visual effects, and they created all kinds of stuff to be able to do what they did. And even, you know, the shots that do exist, because, you know, when you watch the Blu-ray, obviously there's new shots, but there's a lot. I mean, the majority of it, of the space stuff, is the '77 stuff. And it's like, it holds up great. And that the end scene, in that, you mentioned like how in Episode 1 the space battle is just like, you know, almost like, what the hell? Even, you know, but that was that great '70s editing, where it was like that when they're in the trench or whatever. And it's just like the music, it's just winding your guts into knots. It's just like, go Luke!
And the best thing I think about that thing is when the use of the camera. When the camera goes into the trench, it doesn't just go in and then forward. It goes in, and then it
oh, you mean it does this like?
It weaves like the ship. It's the first person thing. And that's gonna be beautiful in 3D.
Oh Christ, that'll be. It's funny because a lot of people are just, you know, they're like, how many years? When's that? 2015. Then
Like
a lot of people, you know, a lot of the people are just like, oh, you know, just can't wait for that, and they're like, God, we gotta go through, you know. Of course, Episode 3, well, 2, you know, but
all of them are gonna look good.
Yeah, but it's just like, for some of, you know, us older people are like, ugh.
I know, I can't wait for 4 and 5. Like, I'm just sitting there like, come on, why can't it be 2013 or like 15?
Yeah. Well, because it can't. So, you know, I just think that as a movie, it's weird because I'm going to review this as a movie, as its own movie, because
that's how it originally came out.
That's how it came out. So I just think it's great. 4 stars. It's a powerhouse. I mean, you know, I was 5, so I can't compare it to what, you know. But when you look at other movies from that time, I think one of the things that was and still is much better about it, like you know, is obviously the score, which sets it apart from all this. If you watch Logan's Run, have you seen Logan's
God, yeah.
Run? And it's like Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
You know, Jerry Goldsmith comes out, music by Jerry Goldsmith, and it's like. I mean, there's Jerry Goldsmith stuff in it, but like when it very first starts, it's like, and they're zooming in on that stupid model, which is probably no bigger than the
Yeah.
city, and the little tunnels with the tubes. And it's like, I don't know what year that was, 76 or something, but will give you an idea of what sci-fi soundtracks were like at that time. And I think that the John Williams score was a huge factor. I mean, had that movie had like, it just would have been nothing like this now. Why don't you take off?
This is easy 4 stars from me as well. Like Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Like I saw that when I was very young, like 3 years old, and I remember watching it when I was 3. Like that's how important and powerful this movie is. Like I remember a 3-year-old's memory of seeing this, and that back then it was the VHS and
Pan and Scan.
Pan and Scan. And so, like, I remember it all, and I remember all the previews right before on the videotape.
Oh, that's cool.
I remember that.
They're probably pimping what, the other 2 movies or something?
It was the box set.
Oh yeah, was it the THX one or what?
I don't know, CBS Fox.
Oh, okay, so that was because in the mid-90s they put out the...
Oh, no, I didn't, I never bought that one. I had the original one from '86.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Anyway, so it's so good. The characters are so iconic, like Han, Luke, and Leia, and everybody mentions Han. Like at least, whenever I talk about it, I always mention Han first before Luke and Leia, which is so weird because he's the side character. He's the Ron Weasley, but like he is such a badass, and I just love that character so much. He's the best character of any of the Star Wars movies, I'd say, without a doubt. And Harrison Ford just brought so much in his delivery for that character. He's awesome. Chewbacca, and like I could just sit here and name the characters, and you're gonna be like, oh yes, like you just have such fond memories of every one of these characters. And I like that. Like the movie is a loose remake of Hidden Fortress, and you can totally see that.
Well, is that like a Japanese?
Yeah, it's one of Kurosawa's movies, and it follows these 2 sort of bumbling fools who accidentally stumble across the aiding of this princess to her kingdom with information or something like that. And so, like, you're following these 2 characters who are the prototypes for 3PO and R2-D2, and so. Watching this movie, having seen that movie now, like it makes me like so happy. Like what a cool way to reinvent something.
Oh, I see.
I like the first like half hour of this movie is just the droids. You're just following these droids. There's no human connection, but there's so much human connection there, which is so weird. And the goofy little things. I will say that the one huge misstep with the Blu-ray is the digital rocks that they put in front of R2.
I told you, I think I saw it
Oh, God, yeah, you did.
And I said, it's like what someone did on their computer. Anyone did on their Mac. A lot of people have Macs. I don't have a Mac, but a lot of people have Macs. And, it's just like, oh my God.
It's really bad.
I thought the scene was fine without the rocks. And just because you're not completely covered up doesn't mean, He's got the hood. It's a sand people. Yeah, well they got those. They probably don't have much freaking vision with them whole long 2x.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that lame?
It is kind of lame.
And what do? Change Obi-Wan's scream 3 times now? It's different in the Blu-ray.
Yeah, it is. It's the same yell that dragon thing that he was riding in episode 3.
What the hell yell was it from the second time?
I have no idea.
Just a random.
Yeah.
Because I still like the first one best because that's what it was.
That's what I remember
it's just
as
like,
well.
Because it was just generic monster.
Yeah.
And then the second time it was like, or something was stupid. I didn't know.
Yeah. And this one, it's like, I don't believe that he can make that sound.
Yeah, I know. Well, he forces the sound. Go on, continue.
But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
I do like the stuff, the lead into Mos Eisley. I think the digital.
Well, it's funny
connection, I think
because
it works well.
that's what I watch the most, and then if you do go back and look at the original, you do understand, but at the same time, it was fine. The thing that's important to realize is that, you know, as a movie, like I said before, I mean, as a viewer, you don't know. You basically accept what's there, and you're not picky because you don't know what the creator wanted to do.
Yeah.
So there, you know, and in the drive into Mos Eisley with all that extra stuff, for me, it doesn't make the movie better, and that's an argument.
It just
adds to, I guess, atmosphere.
Yeah, it adds atmosphere, and it shows you more of that world which you're now familiar with in the prequels.
Right.
So I think that's probably why I did it, to connect more to the other movies.
Right.
And I will say I do like the scene with Han and Jabba. Like, I think that's really important to the series. It's really, really bad looking.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I think it's one of the best scenes from that movie.
Even the Blu-ray looks still horrible. I thought they would have made it look.
I assume they'll probably step it up for the theater
3D.
release. Yeah, because they got to make something look better than that or Jabba.
Yeah.
But I really like that scene and like where he's like, "Look, Jabba!" Like that all the interaction between those two characters is really great.
Do you know one thing I noticed? Maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't. Is that I think they used some of that dialogue from the Jabba scene in the scene where he's talking.
Yeah, they do.
Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Because he says, "Do you think I?" What's he say?
Look, do you
Even
think
I get bored sometimes, and that's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of. Because having cut the Jabba scene, it's okay to use those lines, but then putting the Jabba scene back, you got those.
I think it is repetitive, but at the same time, like he's talking to two different people, so I do kind of.
Well, I mean, it's the exact line. It's not the
Yeah.
same line redone. It's the exact.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah.
I still think that Jabba scene put in there. I mean, it's good to have, knowing that, you know, Jabba comes into it, and it's a reason why he's sought after in the second, in the fifth one, and stuff like that. But I think it just, the pacing for me, the movie stops when that Jabba scene goes in, and then it resumes. I guess I've seen it so many times without it. You know, if what was there, for me, it doesn't work. But
I kind of like the scene. And then I really like all the stuff with Obi-Wan and Vader, like, re-meeting and whatnot. And,
right.
Sensing each other, and him talking to Tarkin, and Tarkin was really good. We got a pimp out for Peter Cushing. He was great. And then, as you mentioned, the best thing in this movie is that battle, that space battle at the very end. Is so just
even by today's standards,
it's so tense.
It's a different, yeah. Go on.
It's just so insanely tense, and like I showed this to somebody who like hadn't seen Star Wars. She watched it fourth, and she was just like kind of like it's a white knuckle hold on to the like seat kind of movie, and
stay on target.
Yeah.
Stay on target.
We do need to discuss
Porkins.
Like,
Pull up! No, I'm all right.
yeah, Porkins. In all three of the original Star Wars movies, the extras are terrible actors. How can it's just a computer? Like that guy who's just so wooden. I can't remember the line anymore because it's just so badly.
What about that guy who's got his eyes shut? It's too much interference.
Yeah.
I never understood that. I mean, can't you fly better with your eyes open?
Yeah.
It's
Negative,
like, what?
negative. It didn't go in. It just impacted on the surface.
Yeah, but I gotta agree. But that's that's just awesome 70s-ness. I love that. It's just,
I enjoy it too.
And they got these stupid beards and all this shit. Of course, you know, they're rebel hippies, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, but what is the deal with Pork? Right with your red too, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, did he know he was going to be called Porkins? Like, when he saw the movie at the premiere, he's like, Porkins, excuse me here.
Yeah, you gotta wonder. The poor guy.
Come with me, Porkins.
And Wedge is actually Ewan McGregor's uncle, I think.
Holy
right?
mother.
The
I
actor.
don't really know that.
I think the actor who plays Wedge,
heard something along those lines.
Which is kind of neat. There's connectivity between the series outside of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, 3PO is awesome. Like the performance there is just great.
Wait, did you say 3PO's awesome?
Yeah, 3PO is
okay.
awesome. Anthony Daniels gives such a good performance. Nobody really mentions him too much, which is kind of unfortunate. But.
Yeah, well, because I don't think up until now, I think this is the beginning of it. See, because I didn't really like. See, I didn't even cover any of the sequels, which I'll say right now briefly. Is that I thought that C-3PO in the prequels, there was really no place for him, and it felt like for me he was just thrown in there because you expected to see him.
Yeah.
Whereas I think he feels like he's in place, especially the fourth one is, like you said, for the first 20 minutes, about them, about the two droids, and you get an insight into all this stuff like, oh, this oil bath is going to be so good, and all this kind of stuff, all this robot stuff, and I think I'll power down for a while.
Yeah, I like that.
And the nipple restraining bolt
Yeah.
placements, like,
And Alec Guinness is really good in this movie, and he plays a scene, and I don't even know if he knew it at the time, but he plays it so perfectly. Where when he's asked about Anakin, and then he just sort of like looks away, like, what should I say here? And then he's like, and he tells him about Vader.
yeah, how do I say this without saying it?
Yeah, like he doesn't.
Vader was seduced by the. Oh
If
wait,
he that's
trash.
no, but when he talks about that, he plays it so well because he kind of looks at Luke and then he looks away, like, do I tell him? And then he's like, I'm gonna go with it, and he tells him like a version of the truth.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was so funny when I watched this with that my friend Susie, who hadn't seen him before. She was just like, well, why did he tell him that? Like, she just couldn't understand why he lied.
Oh.
Kind of thing. And it's like, that's the perfect reaction, knowing what you know. Like, that is kind of the perfect reaction, because that's Luke's exact reaction once he finds out in not only Empire, but then in Jedi, when he first confronts Obi-Wan about it. He's like, why didn't you tell me? Like, he flat out says that line. So, it was kind of neat.
What do you think?
I think that's it. I'm going to give this 4 stars, 4 stars.
4 stars, classic Star Wars, the very beginning, the very beginning started all, the very beginning of the billion-dollar empire of the multi-billion-dollar.
This is the real, Jaws was the first summer blockbuster. This is the real first summer blockbuster that kickstarted it forever afterwards.
Yeah, you're right.
And people still, when they talk about a really popular movie, they're like, "I made Star Wars money." Like that.
Oh, right,
it's always
right. It's referenced to.
Yeah, like.
Right. Gotcha.
There you have it.
Catch you later. Thanks for watching.